The notice was taped to Wren Calloway's front gate, and it had a number on it, $47,212.18. Due in 12 days. After that, the county would sell the Calloway ranch at auction. Wren read it twice. The paper trembled in the wind, though her hands did not. Then she reached the date on the attached mortgage and stopped. According to the county, her father had signed the loan 8 days after she buried him. Behind her, 9-year-old Etta brushed a gelding in the round pen, humming something off-key and happy, unaware that the ground beneath her boots had just been given a deadline. "Everything okay, Aunt Wren?" Wren folded the notice into quarters. She had buried her husband 3 years ago. Her father 8 months ago. She was not going to bury this land too. But a fight was the last thing she wanted, and the thing she was beneath the dust, flannel, and tired eyes had once been built for exactly that. "Not yet," she said. Etta stopped brushing. It was the first time Wren had answered that question honestly. "What happened?" "Someone says Grandpa borrowed money against the ranch." "Did he?" Wren examined the signature. The capital C leaned backward. Her father's had always leaned forward, as if walking into weather. "I don't know what happened," she said. "But he didn't sign this." At the county records office, Wren placed Silas Calloway's death certificate beside the mortgage. The clerk compared the dates. Her face changed. Before she could speak, Sheriff Stephen Boyd entered through the side door. He was broad through the middle, silver-haired, and still moved with the confidence of the high school quarterback whose photograph hung inside the diner. "Morning, Melissa." The clerk straightened. Boyd looked at the papers on the counter. "Trouble at the ranch?" "You tell me." He read the dates. "Looks like somebody entered one incorrectly. The mortgage says my father signed 8 days after he died. Banks finish paperwork after borrowers pass all the time. By having them sign it?" Boyd gave her the patient expression men used when they wanted anger to appear irrational. "Your father was sick. He may have arranged something you didn't know about. The ranch was paid off 11 years ago. People borrow money. Where did this money go?" The clerk searched the computer. A disbursement certificate appeared. The $42,000 had not gone to Silas's personal account. It had been paid by cashier's check to an entity called Calloway Agricultural Holdings. Wren had never heard the name. Boyd watched her reaction. "Maybe your father created it." "He didn't. You can't know everything a man did before he died." The certainty beneath Wren's anger loosened slightly. Her father had hidden things before. Usually pain. Occasionally debt. Once, when Wren was 17, an entire truck engine he had promised her mother he would not buy. But never a company. "I want the original mortgage." The clerk glanced at Boyd. "You'll need to submit a request," he said. "How long?" 5 to 7 business days. The auction is in 11. "Then I suggest you move quickly." Outside, a black truck waited across the street. Wade Kessler sat behind the wheel. When Wren saw him, he did not drive away. He smiled. Calloway Agricultural Holdings was real. It had been formed 2 years earlier. The organizer was Silas Calloway, and the signature on the filing looked authentic. The company's mailing address was a post office box Wren did not recognize. Its registered telephone number had been disconnected. At home, she opened the gun safe in her father's office. The original deed was there, along with the satisfaction of mortgage recorded 11 years earlier. No company statements. No corporate seal. No record of the $42,000. She found a thin folder marked in Silas's square handwriting, "Water, do not sign." Inside were 3 offers from Kessler Development for the 11 acres touching the river. The first was generous. The second appealed to civic responsibility. The third warned that refusal could expose the ranch to future access, assessment, and valuation complications. Beneath the letters was a photograph of a legal agreement bearing Silas's signature. Most of the page was obscured by his hand, but the heading remained visible: option and right of first refusal. On the back, Silas had written, "If they produce this, don't trust the copy." At the bottom of the folder lay a yellow note: "Doyle lied about 7B. Ask him why." Not Doyle knows. Doyle lied. Calvin Doyle had been county recorder until retiring suddenly 16 months earlier. His telephone number was disconnected. Wren studied the photograph beneath the desk lamp. Silas had known the option existed. He might even have signed it. The mystery changed. Someone had not simply invented a debt after his death. They had built it around something he had done while alive. Wade Kessler came to the ranch that afternoon. His truck cost more than most houses in the county. He wore pressed denim, polished boots, and a belt buckle the size of a fist. He did not get out. He made Wren walk to him. She did, because walking cost nothing and refusing might cost information. "Ms. Calloway. I hear the bank surprised you." "You knew it would." "I knew your father's finances were complicated." "You knew about Calloway Agricultural Holdings?" His eyes showed no surprise. "Silas created it while we were discussing the development." "What was it for?" "Consulting work. My father was a rancher. He was trusted. That has value." "You paid him to persuade other landowners." "I paid him to explain why 400 permanent jobs might matter more than preserving every empty field in the county." "And the mortgage?" "Your father accepted an advance. When he withdrew from the option agreement, the advance became secured debt. The money never reached him. It reached his company. A company with no account records and a dead telephone number." "That sounds like a question for your father's accountant." "He didn't have one." Kessler's smile thinned. "Everyone says that until the invoices appear." Wren held up the photograph of the option agreement. "Is this what he signed?" Kessler looked at it. "Where did you find that?" "My father's safe." "That would be his copy." "Would?" "I don't recall every page." "You recall enough to prepare a purchase offer before I received the foreclosure notice." She had guessed. His silence confirmed it. Kessler lifted a folder from the passenger seat. "My company will pay the debt and legal expenses. You keep the house, barn, and 200 acres. We take the river frontage and south pasture. You already scheduled the survey. Responsible companies plan for probable outcomes." "How probable?" "After an auction, the land belongs to the buyer. You can spend years arguing over property that is no longer yours." He had just told her how he intended to win. Not by proving every document legitimate. By running out the clock. "This county has been dying politely for 20 years, Kessler said. The mill employs half the people it once did. Children leave. Shops close. Farms fail one family at a time, and everybody calls it heritage. And your project saves us? It creates jobs, housing, and a tax base. It also makes money. Those facts can coexist." That honesty made him more dangerous than a man who needed to pretend he was charitable. Wren did not touch the folder. "My father wrote something about Exhibit 7B. Kessler's face remained still. His fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "What did he write?" "That Doyle lied." Kessler looked toward the round pen, where Etta was pretending not to listen. Some questions become more expensive after you ask them. Is that what happened to my father? You think I killed Silas? I didn't say that. You wanted me to hear it. He leaned toward the window. Your father made arrangements. Then he tried to escape them. If you turn his breach into a conspiracy, you may destroy what remains of his reputation along with your ranch. The threat was not that Kessler would expose a lie. It was that he might expose the truth. At the mention of the ranch, something old shifted through Wren's body. Her weight settled. The distance to Kessler became measurable without her deciding to measure it. He noticed. His gaze touched the scar along her jaw, the break in her nose, and the stillness that was not quite calm. You've got some mileage on you, he said. So does this land. Land doesn't care who owns it. No, Wren said. People do. She left his offer on the hood. Kessler drove away with it still there. The dead calf appeared beside the north trough the following morning. Clover had been healthy the previous night. Now Etta stood 10 feet away with one hand covering her mouth. Wren covered the animal with a tarp. Go inside, sweetheart. Was it because of the papers? I don't know. Is that the truth? Yes. Etta obeyed. Dr. Mateo Ruiz arrived within the hour. He crouched beside the trough, dipped a testing strip into the water, and swore quietly. Don't let anything else drink from this. What is it? I need a laboratory. What do you think it is? Organophosphate pesticide. Enough to kill? He looked at the tarp. Wren took out her phone. Ruiz caught her wrist before she called the sheriff's office. Ask for Deputy Alvarez. Why? Boyd plays golf with Kessler on Sundays. That doesn't prove anything. No. But Silas once asked me about this same kind of chemical. Wren lowered the phone. When? Last winter. Why? He said an animal had been exposed. Did you believe him? No. Ruiz looked toward the house before continuing. I thought he was asking about himself. Silas had become forgetful during his last months. He misplaced keys, repeated questions, and once left a stove burner running. Wren had blamed age and grief. What did you do? He brought me a blood sample. Said it came from a sick animal. And? Before I could send it away, he returned and took it. Why? He said he'd been wrong. Ruiz looked at the poison trough. I don't think he was. Deputy Rosa Alvarez arrived in her own truck and parked behind the barn. She carried a paper notebook instead of a department tablet. Wren showed her the mortgage, the company filing, Kessler's letters, the photographed option, and Silas's note about Doyle. Alvarez focused on Calloway Agricultural Holdings. I've seen this before. She removed 2 foreclosure files from her bag. Both loans had been paid to agricultural companies bearing the landowners' names. Did the owners create these? They created the companies. They deny taking the loans. Did Kessler acquire their land? Yes. For his road or pipeline? That's what I assumed. Alvarez unfolded a survey map. Neither property touched the proposed route. Then why take them? Wren asked. I don't know. A telephone vibrated inside Alvarez's coat. Sheriff Boyd's name appeared on the screen. She let it ring. A voicemail followed. Alvarez played it aloud. Rosa, bring the Calloway report to my office. Now. Neither woman had told Boyd that Alvarez was there. Alvarez crouched beside her truck and found a county tracking unit fixed behind the rear axle. It wasn't there yesterday. Wren looked toward the road. Who else knew you were coming? Only Ruiz. Across the yard, Ruiz was kneeling beside the trough. Wren trusted him. That did not make him the only possible source. Someone was not merely anticipating her investigation. Someone was watching it move. Ruth Peterson kept Wren on the porch of her rented double-wide. We fought, Ruth said. Our lawyer spent $12,000 proving we couldn't afford to prove anything. The bank had paper. We had anger. Judges prefer paper. Did your husband create Peterson Agricultural Holdings? Ruth's expression changed. Who told you that? The mortgage records. Yes. Will created it. Wren had expected denial. Why? Kessler paid him as a consultant. Will believed the development would help the county. Did he take the money? $20,000. So the mortgage was legitimate? No. The payment was real. The debt was not. How does one become the other? That's the trick, isn't it? Ruth went inside and returned with a cardboard banker's box. Inside were payment records, legal letters, and a photograph of a document marked Exhibit 7B. It was not a parcel map. It was a list of names. Landowners. Bank officers. County employees. Business owners. A pastor. Sheriff Boyd. Each name had a number beside it. Beside Boyd, 75. Beside the bank president, 120. Beside Silas Calloway, 42. $42,000. A few names carried additional notes. Beside Will Peterson, convert after refusal. What does convert mean? Wren asked. We didn't know until Denny Ostrander called and said our consulting payment had become a secured loan. Was that allowed by the contract? Not the one Will signed. Where's his copy? It disappeared from our attorney's storage after the auction. Who is Denny? Bank employee. He processed the conversion. Did he know it was fraudulent? Ruth looked away. He cried at our auction. That isn't an answer. It's the only one I have. Wren studied 7B again. Kessler had not targeted only land needed for his development. The list contained people able to support, approve, delay, or expose it. The payments were leverage. Those who remained useful kept the money. Those who resisted discovered it had become debt. Why didn't you give this to Alvarez? Because Boyd stopped my son twice after I spoke to her. Second time, he told him accidents happen when people drive angry. Do you know where Doyle is? Holman Reservoir. Will he talk? He lied to your father. Why would he tell you the truth? Sometimes fear expires. Ruth's expression remained flat. No. It only changes owners. As Wren carried the box to her truck, a county utility vehicle pulled out behind her. She took 3 unnecessary turns. It remained there. Rather than drive home, she entered the state police parking lot. The utility vehicle continued past. Wren waited 20 minutes before returning to the ranch. The office window was open. Nothing obvious was missing. The water folder remained in the safe, along with Silas's note and the photographed option. But someone had opened the frame containing her father's military service certificate. Behind it, Wren found an envelope she had never seen. It had already been slit open. The envelope was empty. Whoever entered the house had not come to leave a warning. They had found something. And Wren did not know what they had taken. Denny Ostrander found her the next afternoon. At the feed store, he reached past her for a bag of sweet feed and slipped a note into her coat pocket. She read it inside her truck. Your father took Kessler's money. I can prove it. Church cemetery. 10. Come alone. Denny waited beside the cemetery maintenance shed, shoulders hunched inside a coat too thin for the weather. I didn't forge the signatures, he said before Wren reached him. What did you do? I entered the loans. You knew people denied signing them. Not at first. And later? His silence answered. Why did you keep doing it? My wife had cancer. Insurance came through the bank. Kessler sat on the board. So you traded their homes for your insurance? Denny flinched. Yes. Wren had expected him to defend himself. His agreement left nowhere easy for her anger to go. He handed her a bank statement. Calloway Agricultural Holdings had received $25,000 from Kessler Development. Silas had withdrawn it in cash. The mortgage was for $42,000, Wren said. That was a second payment. Where did it go? It never moved. How can money become debt if it never moved? The bank created a cashier's check payable to the company, then marked it uncollected. Boyd delivered an option agreement stating the amount became secured if Silas breached. After he died. 8 days after. Did you know? Yes. The word hung between them. Why was my father different from the other people on 7B? Because he worked for Kessler. No, I watched him bring 3 landowners into the bank. I watched him sign a referral form. The certainty Wren had carried since finding the notice finally broke. Silas had not merely created a company. He had helped recruit people into Kessler's project. Why did he turn against him? I don't know. But before he died, he started asking for copies of every converted loan. Did you give them to him? Some. What did he do with the cash? I don't know. Headlights appeared beyond the cemetery wall. Denny stepped backward. You brought someone. No, a sheriff's cruiser stopped at the gate. Boyd emerged alone. Mr. Ostrander, he called. Step away from Ms. Calloway. Denny tried to hide his phone. Boyd saw it. I have a warrant concerning theft of confidential bank records. That was fast, Wren said. Boyd kept his attention on Denny. Give me the phone. Denny hesitated. Boyd reached for it. Wren stepped between them. Her body measured his hands, hips, and balance before her mind could stop it. Boyd noticed. Move. Show him the warrant. This doesn't concern you. The records concern my ranch. Boyd's hand hovered near his belt. The cold old instinct whispered that she could reach him before he drew. Wren knew better. She stepped backward and took out her own phone. I'm recording. Boyd looked toward the road. A passing truck slowed near the cemetery gate. He produced a folded warrant. Denny read it. Then he handed over the phone. Boyd placed it inside an evidence bag. As he turned away, Denny said, "The email isn't on there." Boyd stopped. What email? The question came too quickly. Denny's fear remained visible, but something changed inside it. The one Wade sent. Boyd looked at Wren, then back at Denny. Sheriff's office. 9 tomorrow. Bring an attorney. He drove away with the phone. When the cruiser vanished, Wren asked, "Is there an email?" Yes. Do you have another copy? Denny swallowed. No, the hope lasted less than 10 seconds. Then he said, "But I printed it." Where? At the bank. The evidence existed. It was also inside a building controlled by the people trying to destroy it. 8 days remained. At breakfast, Etta found the foreclosure papers beneath Wren's newspaper. How many days? 7 after today. Are we losing the ranch? No, Etta looked at her. That's not what I asked. Wren put down her coffee. Etta pushed her cereal away. You said nothing was wrong when the notice came. Then Clover died. Somebody went through Grandpa's office. Nothing is fine. I'm trying to protect you. My mother used to say that when grown-ups say everything is fine, they want children to stop asking. Wren's sister had said that. Usually about Silas. Wren had become the very thing she once resented. The ranch is in danger, she said. Grandpa accepted money from Kessler. Later, someone used another payment to create a mortgage after he died. Why did Grandpa take money? He thought the project might help people. Did it? It hasn't yet. Was Grandpa bad? Wren wanted to give her a simple answer. He made a choice that hurt people. Then I think he tried to correct it. Did that make everything better? No, Etta looked toward the window. Can the people who killed Clover hurt us? They might try. What do? We tell each other the truth. You follow the safety plan. If I say run, you run. Without you? If I say so. That isn't a promise I like. It's the one I need. Etta studied her. Did you used to fight people? Wren went still. I found a picture in Grandpa's desk. You were wearing gloves inside a fence. A long time ago. Were you good? Yes. Why did you stop? Because being good at hurting people had once seemed safer than admitting she could be hurt. I wanted a different life. That isn't the whole answer. No, Wren said. It isn't. The telephone rang. Kessler had filed to accelerate the foreclosure. His lawyers argued that the livestock death demonstrated neglect and declining collateral value. The hearing would take place the following morning. The poisoned calf had not frightened Wren into selling. Now its death was being used to take the ranch faster. Someone had planned for both outcomes. Judge Harland reviewed the mortgage discrepancy, the shell company, and the photographed copy of 7B. Kessler's attorney did not deny the consulting payment. Silas Calloway was an early supporter of the development, he said. He accepted compensation, signed an option agreement, and later attempted to withdraw. The debt arose from that breach. The alleged security document was signed after his death, Wren's attorney replied. The date is a clerical error. Then produce the original. The attorney hesitated. Only briefly. But Judge Harland saw it. I will allow 5 days for production of the original instrument, he said. The auction remains scheduled pending evidence that the signature was substituted or the debt fabricated. Outside, Kessler spoke to reporters. This county needs jobs, housing, and modern water infrastructure. Silas understood that. His daughter is trying to turn his buyer's remorse into a criminal conspiracy. When the cameras turned to Wren, she did not deny her father's involvement. My father took Kessler's money, she said. Then somebody created a mortgage after he died. Both things are true. The admission cost her sympathy. It bought credibility. Kessler watched from across the courthouse steps. He had expected her to protect Silas's reputation. Instead, she had removed the weapon from his hand. Calvin Doyle lived in a weathered trailer beside Holman Reservoir. Ruth insisted on coming. He ignored my husband, she said. He may ignore you too. Doyle opened the door with an oxygen tube beneath his nose and one hand hidden behind the frame. I don't know anything. My father said you lied about 7B. At Silas's name, Doyle looked away. He came to me after Will Peterson showed him the conversions. What conversions? Consulting payments becoming mortgages. Why did you lie? Boyd ordered me to certify replacement contracts as originals. Did you? Yes. Ruth stepped closer. My husband died believing he had failed our family. Doyle's eyes lowered. I was afraid. So was he. Wren showed him the empty envelope from behind Silas's certificate. What was in this? Doyle recognized it. A safe deposit receipt. Which bank? State Commerce in Bellwether. Whose name? Mine. Wren stared at him. Silas paid for the box. He didn't trust any bank in the county. Where's the key? Doyle's hidden hand emerged. He had been holding it since opening the door. What's inside? Wren asked. Documents. A recorder. Maybe enough to prove what they did. Why didn't you give it to Alvarez? I didn't trust law enforcement. You mean you didn't trust Boyd? I mean I didn't trust anyone enough to risk my daughter. Ruth's voice hardened. Fear doesn't make you innocent. I know. Will you testify? Doyle looked toward the reservoir. No. Ruth laughed once, without humor. Doyle held the key out to Wren. That's all I can do. Wren did not take it. If you hand me that key, Boyd will say I created whatever is inside. Kessler will say the records were altered after my father died. Then what do you want? You open the box with a state investigator present. You identify every document on camera. No, then keep the key. Wren turned away. She had reached the trailer expecting a frightened man to surrender a miraculous answer. Instead, Doyle's fear created the next obstacle. Behind her, the screen door opened. Wait, he said. Wren stopped. I'll open it. I won't testify in court. It's a start. No, Ruth said. It's another place to hide. Doyle looked at her. Ruth did not soften. After a long silence, he said, I'll give a recorded statement. And when Kessler's lawyer calls you a liar? Doyle's hand shook around the key. I'll answer him. The safe deposit box contained 5 items. Silas's original consulting agreement. Will Peterson's agreement. A complete copy of Exhibit 7B. An audit ledger showing Boyd's removal of disputed originals from county archives. And a digital voice recorder. State investigators photographed everything before anyone touched it. The agreements proved the consulting payments contained no conversion clause. The complete 7B identified the amount offered to each influential person, what Kessler needed from them, and the action to take if they stopped cooperating. Some entries said withdraw support. Others said terminate employment, accelerate note, or refer to Boyd. Silas's entry said, 42, secure option after withdrawal. The audit ledger showed Boyd removed the Peterson and Calloway originals shortly before each foreclosure filing. The recorder contained only one conversation. Silas spoke first. I took your money because I believed the project would help this county. Then Will showed me the altered agreements. Kessler answered, Will accepted $20,000. He accepted consulting work. He didn't mortgage his orchard. He accepted an obligation. Not the one you invented afterward. A pause followed. When Kessler spoke again, his voice was controlled. The project cannot survive if every participant gets paid and then walks away when pressure arrives. Then write an honest contract. They would never sign it. That should tell you something. What it tells me is that necessary things are often defeated by people who want the benefit without the cost. You changed the papers. I relied on counsel to preserve our contractual rights. Kessler was careful even in private. Silas pressed him. And Boyd? Boyd understands that records must reflect enforceable obligations. That isn't an answer. It is the only one you require. Then another voice entered. Boyd. If Silas won't sign the replacement, the company authorization is enough. We process the security after the medical situation resolves. Kessler said, no accidents. Who said anything about an accident? I did. Because I know how you solve problems. Boyd laughed. You want the result, Wade. Stop pretending you care how the road gets built. The recording ended. It established that Kessler knew documents were being manipulated. It also gave him a defense against the violence. He had warned Boyd against an accident. The recording did not prove who poisoned the calf, entered Wren's home, or caused Silas's decline. The answer was strong enough to threaten the conspiracy. Incomplete enough to make the conspirators dangerous. Denny entered High Plains Bank at 9 the next morning. He walked out 18 minutes later with nothing. Kessler's attorney and 2 security guards followed him onto the sidewalk. They accused him of attempting to steal confidential records. Boyd arrested him for violating the earlier warrant. But the arrest was the distraction. While security watched Denny, Melissa, the county clerk, entered the bank through the public records annex connecting the 2 buildings. Denny had given her the cabinet number and his remaining access code. She photographed the printed email instead of removing it. Then she emailed the photographs to Alvarez, the state investigator, Ruth, and 3 reporters. The email read, normalize the 4 identified obligations before water review submission. Preserve original effective dates. Coordinate county recording with Sheriff Boyd. Delay creates exposure for the entire project. Silas was not among the 4. He had originally been a recruiter, not a target. His fabricated mortgage came later, after he threatened to expose the system. Denny lost his job. Melissa was suspended. Alvarez was suspended when Boyd learned she had helped coordinate the evidence transfer. The people who had once remained silent were beginning to speak. Every one of them paid before knowing whether speaking would work. The barn attack came at 1:13 the following morning. Wren woke to the horses screaming. For half a second, she was somewhere else, white lights, concrete beneath her feet, a man shouting through chain-link fencing. Then she smelled smoke. She ran into the hall. Etta. The girl's door opened. Boots and coat. Take the cellar phone. Follow the plan. But the horses, now. Wren called 911 as she ran outside. Orange light pulsed behind the barn windows. Denny lay beside the doors. Released pending formal charges, he had come to warn Wren that someone followed him from town. Blood darkened his temple. He was breathing. Wren dragged him away. The barn door slammed shut. A chain rattled through the handles. Someone had locked the horses inside. Wren grabbed a shovel and drove its blade between the doors. Smoke poured through the gap. A man inside kicked the shovel. The handle struck her mouth. A second attacker came around the barn with a crowbar. Wren turned too late. The bar hit her left shoulder and dropped her to one knee. He swung again. She lunged into him, not to win, only to ruin the angle. The crowbar glanced off her scalp. They crashed into the mud. He was heavier than she expected. He forced a forearm across her throat. Training returned in fragments, each competing with panic. Wren tried to turn him. Her shoulder failed. The pressure increased. For one terrible instant, she was back in the kitchen with Daniel's blood on the floor and her body refusing to move. She jammed a thumb toward the attacker's eye. He jerked away. Wren got one boot against the wall and shoved. They rolled apart. She reached for the crowbar. He kicked her ribs. Something cracked. A second man emerged from the side door carrying an empty fuel can. "Leave her," he said. "Find the recorder." They did not know the state already had it. The first man seized Wren's coat. She struck his throat with the heel of her hand. Not cleanly. Not hard enough. He recoiled, then punched her above the ear. The yard tilted. Inside the barn, a horse slammed against the doors. Would split around the chain. Wren crawled toward it. The attacker caught her boot and dragged her backward. She kicked blindly, caught his knee, and twisted free, but moved in the wrong direction. Away from the doors. Away from the horses. She had survived the hold and lost the position that mattered. The second man ran toward the house. Etta appeared behind the stone wall. She held Silas's old rifle. "Stop." Wren's blood went cold. "Put it down, Etta." The second attacker moved toward the wall. Etta fired. The shot struck the dirt well away from him. She tried to work the bolt and jammed it. Wren forced herself upright. Her left arm failed, and she fell again. Headlights swept across the yard. The attackers ran toward the trees. Alvarez's truck stopped beside the round pen. She had ignored Boyd's suspension after hearing Wren's incomplete 911 call over a volunteer fire radio. Wren did not chase the attackers. She crawled toward the doors. The chain had pulled through the splintered wood. She tugged with her good hand. It would not move. Etta reached her. "I told you to stay in the cellar. I heard you scream. Help me pull." Together they freed the chain. The horses burst through the opening. One knocked Wren into the mud. Etta caught her coat and dragged her away from the hooves. Volunteer engines arrived minutes later. Boyd came last. By then, half the roof was burning. He walked toward Wren. "You don't touch this scene," she said. "This is my county." Alvarez stepped between them. "State Fire Marshal is coming. You're suspended." "I'm still a certified officer until the county completes the process." Boyd looked toward Denny, then toward the house. What were they searching for? Wren had not told him the attackers entered the house. Alvarez heard the mistake too. Boyd saw it in their faces. He recovered. People don't burn an occupied barn unless the fire is covering something else. It was plausible. That was Boyd's gift. Every truth arrived carrying just enough explanation to survive. The barn could not be saved. Neither could the winter hay. Wren left in an ambulance with a separated shoulder, 2 cracked ribs, and stitches in her scalp. She had not defeated anyone. She had made mistakes, panicked, and survived until help arrived. The attackers escaped. And in 2 days, the ranch would still go to auction. At the hospital, Etta sat beside Wren's bed with soot across her cheeks. "You told me to stay in the cellar." "I know. I heard you screaming. You could have died." "So could you." "That's different." "No, it isn't." Wren looked at her niece. Etta was not asking to be treated like an adult. She was asking Wren to stop treating herself as expendable. The rifle could have killed someone. "I know. You do not pick it up again unless there is no other, I know." Wren exhaled carefully around her ribs. "I used to fight for money." Etta waited. "Later, I joined the army. I taught soldiers how to survive when things got close." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted that life to belong to someone else." Did it? No. Wren told her about the crowds that felt like traps and the sounds that became other sounds. She told her how Daniel tried to help while she answered every question with "I'm fine." One morning, we fought, Wren said. I left. He drove after me into a storm. And the truck hit him. Yes. You think he died because you ran? Yes. Did you make the truck cross the road? No. Did you make Uncle Daniel follow? I thought, that isn't what I asked. Wren's eyes burned. No, maybe you're doing what Grandpa did. What? Carrying the whole truth alone until nobody else can help. The words reached somewhere violence never had. Wren held out her good arm. Etta climbed carefully beside her. Did you beat the men in the barn? She asked. No. Did you save the horses? We did. Were you brave? I was terrified. That isn't what I asked. Despite the pain, Wren laughed. I stayed. Etta rested her head against Wren's side. Maybe that's the answer. The fire increased public sympathy and strengthened Kessler's legal position. His lawyers argued that the damaged barn reduced the property's value, making immediate sale necessary to protect the lender. Kessler publicly offered to pay Wren's hospital expenses. He denied involvement in the attack. The fire marshal found accelerant but no usable prints. Traffic cameras showed a dark utility truck near the ranch, but the plate was obscured. The auction remained scheduled. Kessler came to Wren's hospital room the following evening. He arrived alone. You should leave, Wren said. I came to make one final offer. Did Boyd send the men? I don't know. You warned him against accidents. So you heard the recording. Answer me. Kessler closed the door. Boyd believes outcomes justify methods. That made him useful. It also made him dangerous. You kept using him. I believed I could control the boundary. Clover died. My barn burned. My father may have been poisoned. I never ordered violence against your family. You built a system where violence solved your problems. That is not the same thing. It is to the people standing in the fire. For the first time, Kessler looked tired. This project is not imaginary, Wren. 400 jobs are not imaginary. Neither are the families leaving every year because there is nothing here for them. Then build it honestly. It will die in hearings before the first pipe is laid. Every landowner will demand 10 times fair value once they know which parcel matters. Every commissioner will want a concession. Every activist will discover a rare insect. Necessary things are easy to stop. So you stole the right to stop them. I removed vetoes. You removed people. Kessler placed an agreement on the bedside table. Sign over the river frontage. I withdraw the foreclosure claim. The bank calls the mortgage an administrative error. You keep the ranch. What happens to Ruth? Her case is separate. Denny? He committed crimes. Doyle and Melissa? Also separate. Everyone pays except you. I assumed the financial risk. They assumed the rest. Kessler looked toward Etta, asleep in a chair by the window. You cannot save everyone. Save the child. The offer was dangerous because it was real. Wren could protect Etta before morning. All she had to do was abandon everyone who made that protection possible. Etta opened her eyes. She had not been asleep. What does he get? The river. What happens to Ruth? Her case becomes harder. And Mr. Denny? He stands alone. Etta looked at the agreement. Do we decide the whole story by ourselves? It was the same kind of protective lie Silas had accepted at the beginning: compromise now, explain later, carry the cost alone. Wren tore the agreement in half. Kessler's expression hardened. When the hammer falls tomorrow, principals will not house her. No, Wren said. People will. Rain gathered over the courthouse as bidders assembled beneath a white canopy. The state had opened a criminal investigation, but Kessler's attorneys argued that an investigation did not automatically invalidate a recorded debt. Judge Harland began an emergency evidence hearing inside. The auction proceeded outside. Denny arrived with an attorney. He had agreed to surrender and testify about every fraudulent entry he made. Prosecutors had offered no immunity. Doyle came with his oxygen tank, knowing his pension and freedom were at risk. Melissa carried certified copies of the archive access log. Alvarez wore no badge. Ruth held the cardboard box she had protected for 18 months. Kessler arrived last. He stopped beside Wren. You think the recording defeats me? I think it tells the truth. It shows me warning Boyd against violence. It also shows you knew he manipulated records. Knowing a sheriff is aggressive is not the same as directing forgery. He was right about the gap. The recording suggested guilt. It did not prove Kessler authorized the false Calloway mortgage. The auctioneer requested opening bids. Inside, Doyle identified the hidden archive location. Original documents had been placed beneath old criminal case numbers so county auditors would not find them. State investigators recovered the Peterson agreement, Silas's written complaint, and the Calloway mortgage. Silas had pushed 3 pinholes through the recorder's seal and every page of the version he challenged. The holes aligned on all pages except the signature sheet. That page had been replaced after his death. The forgery was now physical fact. Outside, the bidding reached $60,000. Kessler held the highest bid. Inside, his attorney shifted responsibility to Boyd. Mr. Kessler relied on county officials and bank counsel. The recording demonstrates that he expressly rejected unlawful violence. It does not establish that he knew Sheriff Boyd intended to substitute Mr. Calloway's signature page. Judge Harland looked toward the clock. Without a direct connection to Kessler, he could freeze Boyd's actions but might not be able to halt a bank foreclosure whose note had not yet been fully adjudicated. The auctioneer asked for final bids. Etta slipped her hand into Wren's. Is this when we lose it? I don't know. Neither released the other. Inside, Denny asked to retake the witness chair. He had already admitted processing the mortgage. Now he admitted something else. Sheriff Boyd didn't bring the Calloway packet directly to me. Kessler's attorney looked up. Who did? The judge asked. Denny's voice shook. Mr. Kessler did. The courtroom went still. Outside, the auctioneer raised his hand. Kessler's attorney objected. This information appears nowhere in Mr. Ostrander's prior statement. Because I lied, Denny said. I was still trying to reduce what I'd done. What proof do you have? Bank security logs. Mr. Kessler entered through the board entrance at 8:12 that morning. His access card opened the executive records room. My workstation uploaded the mortgage 11 minutes later. The logs were purged, the bank attorney said. Melissa opened her folder. Not from the county server. High Plains Bank shared its security system with the adjoining records annex. Melissa had preserved the access data when she searched the county archive. One record proved Kessler entered the bank. It still did not prove what he carried. Ruth stood. My husband saw him. She opened the Peterson box and removed a sealed envelope. Will had mailed himself a written account the day after the Calloway mortgage was uploaded, creating a dated record before Silas's death became part of any public dispute. Ruth had hidden it because the statement also admitted will help Silas recruit the original supporters. She read, Wade Kessler carried a blue mortgage packet into the board entrance. He told Boyd that once the Calloway paper was recorded, 7B would be complete. Silas had been dead 8 days. Kessler's lawyer objected again. Ruth continued. Will wrote this before our shed burned. I kept it because releasing it meant admitting my husband helped bring Kessler into our lives. The evidence did not arrive from nowhere. Denny placed Kessler inside the bank. Melissa established the time. Doyle proved the original had been substituted. Silas's pinholes proved which page was false. Ruth's letter identified what Kessler carried and what he said. The recorder established that Kessler already knew Boyd manipulated public documents. No single person could close the case. Together, they did. Outside, the auctioneer's hand began to fall. The courthouse doors opened. A clerk ran into the rain holding a signed order. Sale stayed. The auctioneer stopped. Judge Harland had frozen the mortgage, halted the auction, and referred the foreclosure scheme for criminal investigation. The order did not convict Kessler. It did not return Ruth's orchard. It did one essential thing. It prevented the lie from becoming irreversible that morning. Etta pressed her face against Wren's side, forgetting the cracked ribs. Wren held her with one arm. Kessler read the order. This is a delay. Yes. You think these people will stay when the cost arrives? Wren looked at Denny, facing prosecution. At Doyle, whose pension was under review. At Melissa, suspended for refusing Boyd's order. At Alvarez, uncertain whether she would wear a badge again. At Ruth, whose husband's compromises now belonged to the public record. The cost already arrived, Wren said. They stayed anyway. For once, Kessler had no offer left to make. The Calloway mortgage was voided 3 weeks later. High Plains Bank froze every foreclosure Denny identified and surrendered its internal records. The State Water Board suspended Kessler Development's application. Boyd resigned before the county could remove him. Charges followed against him, 2 bank officers, and Kessler's attorney. Kessler was indicted months later for conspiracy, fraud, and corruption of public records. He continued insisting the development would have saved the county. Perhaps parts of it would have. That did not make the stolen land less stolen. The barn attackers were traced to a security contractor hired through one of Boyd's discretionary accounts. Both claimed they were sent only to recover documents. Neither admitted who ordered the fires. Ruiz's laboratory confirmed the calf had been poisoned. A later examination of preserved medical samples from Silas found traces of a related compound, but not enough to determine whether it caused his death. Wren never received a clean answer. She learned to live with an honest one. Silas had helped create the danger. Then he had tried to stop it. Fear and courage had occupied the same man, sometimes on the same day. Ruth's foreclosure was vacated. Whether she would regain the orchard remained tied up in court. Denny pleaded guilty to falsifying records and agreed to testify. Doyle lost part of his pension. Melissa found work in the next county. Alvarez returned under an interim sheriff. No victory arrived without an invoice. On the first quiet morning after Wren's sling came off, she and Etta repaired the south fence. The burned barn stood behind them, cleared of ash. New lumber waited beside the foundation. Etta held a staple while Wren tapped it into the post. Too tight? Etta asked. A little. You always say that. Wire needs room to move when the weather changes. Etta looked toward the river. Are we keeping the ranch? Yes. You know this time? Wren met her eyes. Yes. This time I know. Etta handed her another staple. In the lower pasture, Jasper lifted his head as sunlight reached the grass. The river moved beyond him, brown and quiet beneath the cottonwoods. A storm had passed during the night. The land was still there.